Good morning, everybody. We're going to get started. And we're waiting for two other council members to join us who I believe are en route. So let's start as we always do and with the Pledge of Allegiance. Yeah. Mayor Trotter will start us off.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Let's just go around the table first and introduce ourselves. My name is Kevin Law. I'm the chair.
Alexander Carlucci.
Christopher Hahn.
Earl Tulin Jr.
I'm Devin Labasco, President of the Undergraduate Student Government.
Frank Trotta.
Great. And Devin, I'm going to put you on the spot. Can you introduce yourselves as the new undergraduate student rep?
Yes, sir. My name is Devin Labasco, as I just said, President of the Undergraduate Student Government. I've been involved in student government for 3 years now. Here at Stony Brook, I'm a senior, and I'm a double major in biochemistry and women's and gender studies.
Awesome. Well, welcome aboard. Yeah, very good. And so I'll recognize a quorum so we could do business. And let's introduce ourselves around the horn. Maura, you want to start?
Sure. Maury McInnes, President.
Carl Ledgway.
Judy Grenier, Chief Deputy President.
Carl Ledgway, Provost.
Jed Shivers, Senior VP, Finance and Administration.
Rick Ghetto, VP for Student Affairs.
Joseph Fincher, VP for Advancement.
Bill Warren, Marketing Communications.
Braden Hosh, VP for Educational and Institutional Effectiveness.
Suzanne Shane, Interim Chief Campus Counsel.
Bill Harmon, VP Facilities and Services.
Miguel Garcia Diaz, Interim VP for Research.
Very good.
Andrew Greco, EAP West Campus President.
Bruce Cubey, Stony Brook HSC Chapter President.
Fred Skanga, the Long Island State Veterans Home at Stony Brook University.
Rick McClendon, Dean of Students.
Tashika Sutton, AVP for Presidential Initiatives.
Brooke Carroll, AVP of Constituent Experience.
Mark Cortez, Executive Director of Admissions.
Rachel Kavanaugh, Executive Assistant to the Chief Deputy and the President and the President.
Christy Henderson, Chief of Staff and Provost.
Rich Beatty, Senior Associate Provost for Enrollment.
All right. Well, welcome. And Maury, thanks for having your team with us. It's always great, in case any issues or questions come up, that you have your team here, and we appreciate you guys being here. So thank you. Just a quick chairman's report. I'm very honored and privileged to share that Governor Hochul has reappointed me for a new 7-year term as chair, which means I am now, you're stuck with me till 2030. And actually, it's pretty cool. You know, I was first appointed by Governor Patterson, and then I was reappointed by Governor Cuomo, and now reappointed again by Governor Hochul. And Devin, for being an alum and a Stony Brook grad from 100 years ago, and parents who never went to college, you know, to be here and be appointed by 3 governors as chair. It's a pretty cool thing. And I owe most of it, not all of it, but most of it, to my tenure here at Stony Brook. I went to a couple other colleges too. But really honor and privilege. So, Maury, again, we'll be a team and I look forward to it.
Well deserved, that's for sure.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Maury for her president's report.
Great. Well, first of all, I'm very excited to hear that news. That is great. Thank you, Kevin. So let me give you some updates of some things that are going on around campus. And I will start with the most recent U.S. News and World Report rankings. And while all rankings have issues, and they're all made up by a series of different methodologies as to what they are measuring. U.S. News and World Report is the one that people most frequently notice, talk about, think about when they're talking about university rankings. And Stony Brook rose 19 slots in this latest U.S. News and World Report. We are clearly the #1 public university in New York. The number 26 of all public universities in the U.S., and the number 58th overall. And that is by far the highest rankings that Stony Brook has ever had.
That's awesome.
And so that will bring a lot of attention and have a lot of people noticing Stony Brook who haven't before heard of us.
Should be,
So
that's
that
awesome.
is really great.
I know there's been some controversy with U.S. News and some of the Ivy Leagues, pulling out and stuff like that. But do parents still pay a lot of attention to the U.S. News?
Parents still do. I mean, for good or for bad, people just like some source telling them that college A is better than college B. The reality is that, even if a college is number one, it doesn't mean it's the right fit for every student. And we educators are always trying to get people to have those more nuanced conversations about you should pick the right fit for your child. But that's a little bit more problematic. So U.S. News, if they're boiling it down anywhere for undergraduate admissions, it gets boiled down to U.S. News and World Report. I think there are enormously other important conversations for higher education to be having, and New York Times recently did their own ranking, focused very much on the impact that a university has on socioeconomic mobility, and we are number 16 in the nation for that. And really the leading remains, and we have been for a number of years, we remain the leading AAU institution doing that work. So everybody else who's on that list they're not research intensive institutions. So what is so very special about Stony Brook University is that we are a research intensive institution driving innovation and discovery, giving our students access to faculty who are themselves the leaders in their field, involving our students in undergraduate and graduate research opportunities, and leading the way in socioeconomic mobility and the success of students who are the first in their families to go to college, who come from under-resourced backgrounds. So we're strong in all fronts.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Congrats.
It's great to have that kind of recognition for Stony Brook. It's been a since our last council meeting, busy time working for the New York Climate Exchange and establishing our new 501c3 nonprofit that is going to run our initiative on Governor's Island. Tons of work over the course of the summer, doing programming work, setting up research streams, getting work going in areas like workforce development, supporting initiatives in our community groups that are already at work in New York City. And so that is going great. We continue our work raising money to support the New York Climate Exchange. The board has been working really well together. Just as a reminder, in this nonprofit, Stony Brook controls half of the board seats. That means we designate who's sitting in those board seats. Some are Stony Brook employees, some are not Stony Brook employees. Our big funders each have a seat. And one of our alums, Errol Cockfield, also has a seat. So we've been doing good work. As a board, spent 2 days together in an in-person board retreat on Governor's Island, which was great. We are in the final stages of our search for a CEO for the New York Climate Exchange. The Climate Exchange will have their own staff in charge of pushing the initiatives forward, and we've got an amazing pool of candidates and hope to have an announcement in the next month or so. I can tell you that the multiple good news, whether it is the fundraising, whether it is the rankings for Stony Brook, whether it is the largest single unrestricted endowment gift from Jim and Marilyn Simons and the Simons Foundation for $500 million, all of that news and running the New York Climate Exchange has people knowing Stony Brook University in a way they did not before. I was in the city for most of New York Climate Week, and everywhere that I went and introduced myself as president of Stony Brook University and chair of the board for the New York Climate Exchange, everybody was like, oh, Stony Brook. And I didn't used to get that response when I introduced myself to people as the president of Stony Brook. So it is having the kind of impact that we wanted all of those initiatives to have, and we're super excited.
That's awesome. And just refresh our recollection, is the new entity that you created, is that a standalone, not-for-profit, or is it some type of
Standalone,
subsidiary of Stony
not-for-profit.
Brook?
Nope, standalone, not-for-profit.
501c3?
Yep.
Got it.
Yep. So
Thanks.
completely separate. We just happen to occupy a number of the board seats.
It's always good to control the board.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Would you like to make a note of our council member who just joined us?
Yes, let the record reflect that Linda Arman has joined us, and Linda is, she's going to kill me for this. Congratulate her, the new president and CEO of Bethpage Federal Credit Savings. Largest credit union in New York State, the first woman to hold the position. And she's a dear friend, so I can embarrass her.
Yes.
Thanks. Congrats, Linda.
Thanks.
And Maury, since we already took that out of order, I always screw up something every meeting.
Yes.
I also forgot to approve the minutes. I actually waited for Linda to get here
Oh, there
so
you
she
go.
can make the motion to approve the minutes from
Yes.
the May 8th, 2023 meeting. And Chris Hahn seconds it. Are there any comments, revisions, or additions? All in favor? Aye. The minutes are approved. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Rachel was going to yell at me if I didn't do that.
Perfect intervention. So moving on to other updates. As you know, last year we had announced the creation of a new program at Stony Brook, referred to as the Simon STEM Scholar Program. This is a program that is designed to attract and recruit a group of students who are interested in the issues of diversity and inclusion within STEM education, who are themselves leading students in STEM, with the hope that many of them will get the kinds of experience here at Stony Brook that they will be encouraged to go on and get PhDs. In the field of higher education, we all would like to make sure that the best talent in our country is getting opportunities to pursue PhD education and hopefully maybe one day become professors themselves. So we recruited our first class this year. Our goal is to get to 50 students per class. We thought we'd start with 25 to 30 for this first class, make sure we've got everything running well. We had an amazing group of applicants, nearly 1,000 applicants. We invited over 100 to be finalists, and out of that finalist pool made offers to some of them, which yielded 29 students in our initial class. Unbelievably strong, all incredible students and leaders themselves, many of them turning down much more highly ranked in things like U.S. News and World Report universities to come to Stony Brook, both because of the opportunities that they will get as part of this program, but also because this was a place where they felt that they really would belong, where they would have the kind of support they needed to succeed. So they spent the summer with us. Part of the program is a bridge program that is both about cohorting them, like really turning them into a well-integrated, supportive unit, but also giving them that first taste of college life. So they each took a very high-level math class and a high-level writing class. And then they did a ton of activities. They visited Brookhaven National Labs, the Flatiron Institute, Cold Spring Harbor, laboratories all over our campus. And what I can tell you of this group of students is not only are they unbelievably academically strong, but they very much are leaders on campus. And they're almost kind of like cheerleaders for Stony Brook. You see them at every event. They're involved in everything. They're kind of like Devin, right? They live and breathe Stony Brook, and they are the kind of students who are out there making a difference already on this campus. So we are so excited for them.
These are our Simon STEM scholars.
Correct.
Any of them from Long Island, or are they from all over the place?
They're from all over. I would say the bulk are Long Island and the city, a few from elsewhere in the state, and a few out of state.
Which is sort of like how our enrollment goes.
Looks a lot like our enrollment.
Great.
So not too surprising. This year, the goal is to recruit a class of 50 in next year's incoming class. So super excited about them. Again, the strongest research year we've ever had, with $254 million in externally sponsored research. To give you a sense of the strength of our faculty, 8 of our early career faculty earned NSF career grants, which is a very prestigious thing and a good sign of our future trajectory in the research productivity of our faculty. One of the exciting things in research that happens on our campus is this thing called the Discovery Prize, money that Stony Brook Foundation invests in our faculty competing for a $200,000 prize focused on the kind of research that's so cutting edge, so early stage, that neither NSF or NIH is going to invest in it. They're the kind of entities that like to invest in things that are already proven to be making a difference. The idea behind the Discovery Prize is you're really trying to shake things up in a really fundamental way. And so our winner this year was Chris Johnson in chemistry, and he's doing really important research on nanoparticles and cloud formation, with the idea that down the road, we might need to be able to manipulate cloud formation as one of the mitigating ways to impact climate change. So super exciting work there. I've got either new leaders in our leadership team or leadership searches that are underway. So let me tell you about those. We have a great new CIO for campus, Simeon Ananu, who joins us for having been head of information technology at the University of Vermont. And he joined us a month or so ago, and he's fabulous and wonderful, and we're very excited to have him. I have hired a new vice president for strategic initiatives. This was a position formerly held by Rose Martinelli. The new person who will join us on November 1st is Wendy Pearson. She comes to us from the University of Hawaii, where she has been sort of the chief strategist for the provost there, and working on their strategic planning, as well as a whole bunch of other academic initiatives. She will primarily be working on 3 primary initiatives. The first relates to strategic planning, which you'll hear more about from Carl Lejouet, our provost, a little bit later this morning. We are getting ready to launch our strategic plan, and she will be working directly with both leadership and the provost in implementation, as well as the kind of tracking and gathering of data and metrics. That's an important part of ensuring that we are making progress on that plan. And she will also be working closely with academic leadership and healthcare leadership on developing our sort of strategic plan broadly for all of our work on the East End, both Southampton campus, Southampton Hospital, and the communities out on the East End. So we're excited to be welcoming her. We are launching a new search for the Vice President for Research, a search that's being chaired by our deans of engineering, a new dean joining us this year, Andy Singer, and Dean Peter Igarashi in the Renaissance School of Medicine. We have a new search and a new position for a Chief Innovation Officer. It's somewhat the former Vice President for Economic Development, although we are expanding the portfolio and the way that we are thinking about this position as someone who is going to work closely with faculty and academic leadership across campus to really drive a spirit and culture of innovation and entrepreneurship on our campus. So doing the former work of economic development, but really doing so much more than that. And this emerges from a major research and consultative study that we had looking at universities across the nation who are doing this work really well, and how are they structured, and what does the person who holds that position look like. So excited about that, and that's being chaired by Provost Carl Lejouet and my Chief Deputy Judy Greiman. A few upcoming events on campus I'd love to see you at. My State of the University address will be next week on October 11th at 1 p.m. Communiversity Day, which is this really campus-wide amazing event for friends, family of Stony Brook University, was supposed to be a few weeks ago, and it got rained out. So it's New Day is Saturday, October 14th. And then the weekend after that, of course, is Wolfstock, Homecoming, and that is a revamped series of days with great things going on. And you're going to hear a presentation later by Tashika and Brooke that'll tell you a little bit about that. And of course, the Homecoming game is October 21st at 3:30 p.m. and we'd love to see you there. So happy to take questions. That's the basis of my report.
Right. Very exciting, Maury. Everything you mentioned, really, Stony Brook continues to really move forward. I just have one question. I'll open it up. Winnie, the new VP of Strategic Initiatives. So the Southampton campus will fall under her in terms of our plans, and we've all been getting, some complaints about, that campus. The people not feeling it's the proper attention is being paid to it, and I know there are issues on both sides. But will the jurisdiction of that campus and the future of that campus fall under her?
I wouldn't say the jurisdiction. I will say she will be the person who is coordinating across the many people and academic programs that are currently placed there, as well as listening to the community to hear what it is they want to happen there.
Got it. Thank you. Any questions for more?
And just to make clear, we have a very academic, robust set of programs on Southampton campus currently. That is predominantly happening in 3 different areas. One is the School of Atmospheric and Marine Sciences. The other is the health professions programs, of which there are many out there. And the third is in the creative writing arts. Yep.
Great. And we're going to hear more about that at our next meeting when we're on campus there.
Exactly.
Great. So very good. Other questions from Maury or comments? All right. Well,
Okay.
Keep up the great work.
All right.
Very
We've got
exciting.
a busy agenda, so we'll
Yes.
keep moving.
So let's go to our provost, Carl Legaze, who's going to talk about our 23-24 enrollment.
And actually, what I'm going to do is just take a minute and introduce Mark Cortez. And so Mark has been with us for about 6 months.
Starting month 6.
And has been doing amazing work. He's the executive director of admissions, and he came from us from Ohio State, director of outreach and recruitment. And we have had some real positives this year coming in our recruitment. Some of it is just the amazing rise that we're seeing in the university, and some of it is really strategic and intentional. And so we have this group that many of us here are in. Every week we talk about recruitment, we talk about enrollment, and we talk about revenue and the ways that this work together while still ensuring that we are putting students first and that we are being really thoughtful about how we're thinking about the students we bring in and how we help them succeed. And with that, a lot of what we see in some of the positives that Mark will talk about, these have been very strategic. And one of the things that we won't talk about today is we have seen, well, we'll talk about the increase that we have in enrollment in this year in our undergraduate first-time freshman class and in our transfers. What we won't talk about as much is we anticipated this, we planned for this, and throughout the year had put strategies in place so that we would be providing more class support, more open classes. Basically, and as Devin will tell you, in the past, we haven't always had the capacity for students when we've had increases like this, so we've planned ahead for it. We're also investing in advising this year. The university has invested over $1 million in new advisors. And so Mark will tell us about some of the strategy, the positives in the enrollment trends coming, and also know that we're planning for that and we're trying to make sure that at any size we are, we can provide a great experience for students. So with that, Mark.
Thank you, Dr. Eversway. Hi, folks. Good to be with you all. Good to see some colleagues in the room as well. I really am excited about coming into Stony Brook University. Part of why I chose to come here just a few months ago was all of the great excitement, the vision that's been put forth, the work that's occurring across the university, and to be able to come in and share the story about Stony Brook, share the good news, the highlights that were just mentioned by the president, and be able to really bring our prospective students, our future CWOs, the school counselor community, the greater community, both here on Long Island, but also across the globe, has been really exciting. Understanding the work that has occurred, understanding the work that will occur, that we'll talk about in just a few moments, really is positioning Stony Brook in a great place to continue that growth trajectory, to continue that great work. So let's get into some of that great work. On the next slide, thank you. This slide really is showing the progress that we've made over the past few years. Now, important to note here, specifically with fall 2023, SUNY system implemented a free application week that netted us just over 10,000 additional applications last year. At this same time frame, that was held the last week of October and the first week of November. If it wasn't announced yesterday, it will be announced very soon by our governor. That will return to the SUNY system the weeks of October 16th through October the 29th. So we anticipate that we will see either some small growth or remain consistent with application counts. You're going to see here the important numbers of deposits and then our enrolled students. Positive growth through the enrolled students here, largest class ever enrolled at Stony Brook University. So that's a very strong element that we're leading with. Stony Brook University in that 50,344 application count also represents the largest amount of applications for any of the 64 SUNY campus schools. So another really important component to share that story about Stony Brook as we're thinking about our first year applicants to enrolled. When we look at our residency and our gender, as was mentioned, the residency component here does show 84% of New York residents in this year's class, 9% 7% international. When we look at our international numbers, we're seeing strength from China, India, Korea, and Bangladesh. Over the next few slides, we're going to talk about some more data here, but really, as we look at where we're at in the fall 2023 class, important to recognize that we are starting to plan and transition to adjust those numbers slightly. So when we look at programs like the Simon STEM Scholars, we're of course going to see a few more out-of-state students. Our goal is to see a few more out-of-state students in that program. But we balance that with, for example, our EOP program, which is, of course, all New York residents. So there will be a balance and a conversation that we'll continue to have to find that appropriate balance. As one of New York's public flagships, understanding that balance and commitment to educate the citizens of New York is of top priority in those conversations. I specifically included gender on here because some of you may be familiar that there's some national conversations occurring right now about the number of male identified students enrolling on college campuses across the United States. What those numbers and what the national trends are showing is that the number of male identified students enrolling on college campuses is actually decreasing. I wanted to share these numbers because Stony Brook is actually higher than the national average by a few percentage points, but really also to demonstrate that there does continue to be somewhat of a balance of enrollment by gender identity on our campus, an important component, especially when we're looking at those national trends, the national reports that are coming out, just to put in perspective where our university is at and how we're doing there. Another important component that we continue to pay close attention to, especially with decisions coming from the Supreme Court around race-conscious admission, of course, is the number of underrepresented students on our campus. When we look at historically underrepresented, this is inclusive of our Black African American, our Latino and Latinx population, our Native American and Indigenous population also included in there. U.S. non-resident, of course, is highlighted here. And then we continue to show strong strength and interest from our Asian community as well. It's important to note that we cannot have metrics across our underrepresented populations, right? Our friends at the Supreme Court do not permit that. That's not a permissible practice in the admissions process. However, we are intentional about growing pipeline programs, about reaching out to these communities, about having conversations through programs like EOP and Simon STEM so that we can pull appropriate levers to continue increasing opportunities for Black and Brown students on our campus. So we continue to have a desire to grow. We continue to explore and implement and develop and enhance our pipeline programs so that we can continue to move the needle across those areas.
Hey, Mark, I'm just, if I missed it, I apologize, but the white category, are we talking about first-generation college kids or white kids based on income? I don't understand how they are historically underrepresented.
They're not, and that's why white's listed as the third line. Historically represented would be categories like Black or African American, Hispanic, Latinx, Native American, or Indigenous. So that's a category that summarizes those together.
They're not part of the historically underrepresented. That's a separate category than the Asian, white, and U.S. non-residents.
Correct.
Their own separate category.
Correct,
Sorry.
yes.
Sorry.
Now, to the point of low socioeconomic, first generation status, those are not pulled out specifically today, so those would be inclusive in each of the categories that are represented.
Got it. Sorry, thank you.
No problem. One additional note to make here about the historically underrepresented percentage. Our class size grew this year, right? So while the percentage is relatively similar, important to understand that the actual count, student count, did increase on our campus. So just a few highlights here. When we look at African American, 246 this year versus 222 in last year's enrolling class. The Latinx population, 485 versus 476 last year. So percentages in context of a higher and a larger entering first year class to keep in mind here.
And I'm sorry, one more question.
Sure.
Being against here this morning. On the Asian line, does that mean 46% of our freshmen are Asian?
Correct.
And has that grown, or is that, was that what the number was similar to the last few years?
Sure, it has grown incrementally.
I see 40 and 44, but has it always been 40% or higher?
In the past 5 to 7 years, it's been pretty consistently at 40% or higher. Yes.
Got it.
So unique for Stony Brook is that we are a majority campus, right? So we're enrolling more minority students here than we are majority students, in large part because of the Asian student population.
So can I just ask a similarly dense question? So because of the Supreme Court ruling, you can't separate out the historically underrepresented, or you're just putting that in as a category?
Historically represented is a general category that's used at many colleges and universities to encompass all of those underrepresented categories. So for purposes of a concise slide here, I grouped them.
But you could have.
We could have,
Okay.
yes. And again, those numbers are represented across all of our reporting. Yeah,
Okay.
not related to Supreme Court, it's just in how I'm presenting it for you today.
Okay, that's what I wanted to
Yes,
understand.
yes.
Thanks.
It's also 101%, 2020.
For 2023, Braden, my apologies, my rounding, I did recognize that, but my rounding accounted for that additional 1%.
Where'd you rank?
Yes. So across historically underrepresented, we were at 20.8, 20.7, I believe. The same thing for Asian, we were at 45 and some change. So rounding across many of the categories.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right, so let's take a look at academic progress. And really what we want to highlight here is that we continue to show strength in the students that we are bringing in to Stony Brook University. You'll see here that a GPA continues to remain fairly consistent. For test ACT and SAT, we continue to remain a test optional institution for our applicants. Just for context, in terms of the students who are choosing, 37% of our applicants last year said, please use my test score and the admissions consideration. 63% requested that we not use their test scores and admission consideration. We are test optional moving forward, so we will continue to see some numbers very similar like this based off of historical projections. And just a note here, we offer more than these options for English to demonstrate English proficiency from our international applicants. But I really just wanted to highlight the two most popular that we're receiving right now. The numbers in parentheses shaded in a lighter gray color there represent the minimum base score that we're looking at when we evaluate our international applicants for admission to the university.
So are the test scores higher because only people who have high scores are saying use my scores at this point?
The populations we see submitting test scores are applicants applying to our honors program and also to our College of Engineering.
So they are higher than, like, so if we go back to pre-test optional days, what would
Sure.
the average test scores be? Would they be lower?
So these are not average test scores. These are average test scores, but these are for only students who submitted a test.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is like, so, you know, if I had 99 average and then I did 1100 on the SAT, I'd say, don't use my SAT score, I got a
Sure.
99 average.
Sure.
But if I had a 94 average and I got a 1350 on the SAT, I'd say, use my test score because it's a better. So are you getting that? Like, are you only getting test scores now for people who scored in the higher range?
We are, which is in alignment with the College of Engineering, which is one of the more competitive colleges for admission. And then also our applicant pool for our programs, which is a prestigious academic-based program, right? So students who are scoring higher within those populations tend to submit their scores at higher rates.
If I can just, Braden, make sure I'm getting this right, but of these 3 years, we're test optional in all of them, so you can compare us within these years. It is certainly the case across all universities who have moved to test optional. The scores are higher. If we had gone back several years, you would have seen lower scores for the reason you
Yeah, they used to be like in the high 1100s,
Not
if I
dramatically
remember
different.
correctly. Yeah.
And I would say, you know, so it's hard to really pull apart what those comparisons would be before, because you don't know who's submitting and who isn't, but it is definitely the case that there's so you wanna be careful about what comparisons would mean before that, which is partially why we don't have that there. The second thing is, what we can still continue to do, at least decently, is compare with other schools who are test optional, where there's the same set of possibilities that you mentioned. So it's important to do. We certainly should never say, compared to 7 years ago, we have higher test scores and that means something, because it is hard to tease that out. Is that?
That's correct, and to answer Councilman Hahn's question, it's about 50 points higher.
So how do we weight that in the admissions process? If someone sends it in or doesn't send it in, do we automatically give a higher weight to the person that sent it in?
We don't. So we have deployed a holistic application review, which means that the test score is one of many factors that we're considering. We don't have a grid, we don't have set criteria, so we're looking at it as one influence and a larger number of influences to make a recommendation for admission.
So if it's not there.
It's not considered. We're looking at the other factors.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, let's look at some progress of our colleges here. We did show again a 3-year perspective here, really to highlight that we continue to show strength across many of our programs. Important to note here, we have implemented in undergraduate admissions a number of new programs through the recruitment, but then also the yield phase, which is confirming students to enroll. So great progress shown across many of our programs here. One note for health professions, nursing, and social welfare, those represent their undergraduate degree-seeking programs only, not their graduate level programs and not their non-credit programs, which there are many for those schools. So, for example, social welfare means it's the undergraduate social work degree granting program. All right. When we look at the success of our transfer students, again, showing great strength here, the number of enrolled students, 1,155. Pre-pandemic numbers, if we're looking at the number of enrolled students from 18 to 20, we ranged from 1,464 to 1,434. So you'll see here that after pandemic, we still are seeing some impact here, but as are our community college partners. We're enrolling students from Nassau and Suffolk. Enrollment Management introduced a new guaranteed admission pathway for those community college partners to give and provide access for students coming in. This year, we had about 30 students at Nassau Community College enroll in that program, and just over 80 students at Suffolk enroll in that program. So these are students who will be in the pipeline for admission either at the end of their first year or at the end of their second year. Again,
Mark,
great.
are those only West Campus transfers?
These are only West Campus transfers, yes. Again, great progress here based off of the work that's been happening, those intentional programs, and that growth that we saw even just over year from 2022 to 2023 here.
And Mark, are the majority of our transfers from the community colleges, or are they from other four-year institutions?
Many four-year institutions in there.
So the majority are from four-year institutions, not from our community colleges.
40% are from Suffolk and Nassau. There's another 20% from other two-year colleges. We get 40% from four-year colleges.
Thank you.
I'm gonna bring you everywhere. Or you bring me everywhere. I don't know how that works for you. You tell me, sir. All right, folks. As we look moving forward into where we're going, we do have goals to grow enrollment across the university. We do have interest to grow enrollment. The conversations that the provost mentioned that are happening intentionally with many of the partners in the room to ensure we're considering aspects like residence halls and advising and student support services, all of those important pieces that go along with growing enrollment, right, we're considering and are part of the conversation on a regular basis. As we look at growing that enrollment, we are having intentional conversations with many of our academic partners. We're speaking to them about their goals and their desires for their programs, but we're also bringing where the market is into those conversations and understanding where our growth potential lies. So we'll continue to shape that class. We'll continue to have a focus on the demographic makeup of our class. We'll continue to focus on the academic profile of our class, and certainly we'll continue to balance our residency component of New York residents, out-of-state residents, and our international student population. Provost, anything that you'd like to add?
So I first want to thank Mark. He came in really sort of midstream, has really done amazing work professionalizing things, has brought a lot of strategy and thoughtfulness, and that's going to be part of one thing that I do just want to kind of give everyone a heads up on. Most other state flagships are about 70% in-state and about 30% out-of-state, and that is often a mix of domestic and international. As you've seen, we're only about a half of that in our out-of-state, so we're more around 15 or 16%. There are many reasons, some of which are related to revenue, but a variety of other reasons in terms of having a global campus and really preparing students for the workplace of the future and those sort of things, and impacting the college environment. We are going to be pushing towards trying to get that out of state and international closer to that 30%. It will not be easy. It's remained somewhat flat, but we are engaging in the same way I mentioned that revenue and enrollment meeting. We're now doing that particularly with international, and Mark's team is really diving in on the domestic out of state. It won't happen overnight. There'll be plenty of time to talk about it and what it means, but we believe it will be really important for the university, and in the same kind of strategic way we've approached other things, that's how enrollment management is going to approach this.
And what's the reason for wanting to have more out-of-state students? I guess revenue-wise, we charge more for tuition. Is that part of it, or for our rankings and our prestige across the nation or the world, is it better for us to have a more geographically diverse student?
Yeah, I mean, certainly some of that, and I also think just, diversity and what we know about the importance of students experiencing diversity in college is intersectional. So we certainly want to think about ethnic diversity, but we also want to think about other types of diversity, and what does it mean to meet students who come from totally different places, and how does that change, how can we enhance the kind of global readiness and cultural competency of students on our campus? How does that impact
Now, when we think about the workforce that we're creating for New York City and highly skilled New York State and highly skilled jobs, that part is really important. The revenue piece is incredibly substantial. If we were to get to that change while still putting a lot of funds into supporting what that would mean, and so we add advisors, we think about ways to make the campus more welcoming, it could be upwards $20-30 million a year in base funds. So it is not, and that's where we are now able to support all of our students. So we certainly understand there are always trade-offs, but when you look at most states, that 70-30 is viewed as a best practice.
Kevin, I would also add that from an alumni perspective, when we look at public institutions that recruit out-of-state students as alums, they're more likely to stay in the state after they graduate and create new jobs and businesses there. And so as we think about, the next economic development for New York, yes, we want to develop that within, but also recruit those individuals, just as other public institutions are doing today with New York students. So we want to make sure we have that for the future for our alumni.
That makes sense.
The
Thanks,
exception
Josh.
of our high cost of living is the problem.
Yeah.
For real.
Might be hard to do that. Maybe they could work on that, the new students.
Although I will say our out-of-state tuition is somewhere in the lowest 5%, basically the bottom 5, so least expensive of the top 50 publics.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Is there, because I know a lot of, because New York students are so desirable to other states, I know scholarship offers for out-of-state students. There's programs at other large schools that to entice out-of-state students. Are we going to be putting something like that in place as well, or do we already have that?
We already are, and you might argue we've maybe done that too much in the past, or it
Okay.
hasn't been as strategic. What the enrollment management team has done is been working with this software called oversight and some others where you can actually use predictive analytics to try to get a sense of what level of scholarship would you need for a student to come. So we definitely want to base all that, because you're right, even though we might have one of the, if you just think about University of Connecticut, it's very close. It's $13,000 more to go to UConn out of state than it is to come to Stony Brook. We're tied with them in US News. We are a much more extensive research university. There's no good reason why that would be the case. It is true that the cost of living even on campus and other costs for students is higher, so it raises that up a bit more. But we are an excellent value, and I think part of the message we're trying to send is not come to Stony Brook because it's cheap. It's come to Stony Brook because it is a great value.
Yeah, so I don't even think it's about being cheap. I think it's about kids look at the merit scholarships that they get, and they view it almost as a badge of honor, not as it's cheaper.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is cheaper, but they're like, I got a scholarship, so they want to go to the place that they got a scholarship. So I was just curious, because a lot of schools have like a specific out-of-state program, where if you're an out-of-state student, you can apply for a certain merit program at different levels to give some incentivization, to going there. And kids talk about it, so, and they compare notes, and, so there's a whole, you all know this, I'm not telling you anything you don't know.
No, it's a great point. It is. And actually, if you think about the SUNY program, about getting, we chose not to do that, but actually in many cases, correct me if I'm wrong, Rich, the package our out-of-state students were getting was actually more competitive than what that would have been, because it's comparing the in-state at other universities, which is higher. And so we are, the point of it is, we're trying to be really aggressive in that. And
Gotcha.
there might be some ways to think about what you're saying. We might be offering a lot, but are we getting that message out?
That's what I'm saying. It's
So-
about the buzz, right? I applied for the XYZ scholarship and I got it, right? Getting buzz around Stony Brook is once these people, it's a communications play. I mean,
Yeah,
for
no, I
real,
think that's
right? It's a communications play.
All right. Well, Mark and Carl, thank you very much. One of the biggest takeaways I saw from all the numbers you shared was our enrollment is increasing.
Yeah,
And
it's great.
I speak to, and I'm friends with almost every college president on Long Island, and they're all freaking out because their enrollment is largely declining. And especially our community colleges have been declining for the past decade. So the fact that we continue to increase and grow, again, another feather in our cap. So well done, guys.
And if there's other thoughts, like, I'll bring that to our meeting next week and, I'll wanna kind of ask what are the ways in which we can amplify. If there's other thoughts about that, we'd really love to hear them.
Great. Thank you. We're now going to get an update from Brooke and Tashika on homecoming.
Thanks for giving us a few minutes to talk to you about what we're calling a renewed, robust homecoming experience. After last year, we took a real critical look at the services that we were offering and the game day experience and wanted to improve what we gave to our constituents. And so with partnership with the President's Office, advancement, student affairs, our undergraduate student government and athletics, we've built this very large planning committee to talk about the game day experience and what we're gonna offer this year. The one thing that we realized from the committee is that our folks love tradition. They like things that are just unique to Stony Brook, and so they wanted to go back to the Wolfstock tradition. So that's why we're going back to Wolfstock, a homecoming festival for all this year, and making this event bigger and better than ever. And Brooke is just gonna give a little highlight on some of the things that we've improved on, we believe, for this year.
To Tashika's point, this is bigger than it has been in past years. We are running 51 events over 4 days. That includes 8 alumni affinity group events. It includes programming at a college level. So we have 3 College of Business events, and we have an event for College of Engineering, introducing both of those new deans to the alumni population. We're running multiple reunion events over the course of the weekend, including Health Science, Class of 01, College of Business MBA, Class of 2008, and a 10-year reunion that stretches across the university. On Friday night, we're running 11 events alone. To give you an idea, last year we ran 3. That includes Soberfest that teaches students about responsible drinking, fraternity alumni event with the Kappas, that is the sneaker ball, which is a formal dinner. And then the capstone event for Friday night is the student showcase. We are incorporating alumni into that experience because it is so rich and robust. So they will have a special section where they can see what's happening currently on campus in our student population. On Saturday, we're running multiple brunches in the morning. And then at 12:30, we have our tailgate or Wolfstock Village event. This year, we're combining both the alumni and the student section into one event. We have our alums in the last few years going to the student section because they want to see and experience what our current students are doing. So now we've combined that in one location. We've also, because of the rich history of music and concerts on campus, we've included a student component, which is called the Bash, which will be a concert held within the student section that both alums and students can go to, which will feature 4 Long Island bands. And then the alumni section itself will be a more of a family-friendly carnival-esque experience, which will include things for both small children all the way up to our adult and our student population. At 3 p.m., we have the football game itself against New Hampshire, and we have been working with both athletics and our student government to create a more robust student experience within the game itself. And then at the end of the game, instead of fireworks, we are doing a drone show. It seems more in line with the innovation and the spirit of Stony Brook itself. And then on Sunday, we are running a 5K run That will be both for the internal Stony Brook community, but also everyone in the surrounding area as well. So we've really tried to build out a robust experience that will have something for everyone, so we can draw back as many alums as possible, and to Shika's point, create some of those traditions and touch points for our student community that will hopefully extend past once they graduate and get them to come back in future years.
Any questions?
Great. It sounds exciting. And the football experience, you're gonna get Taylor Swift. It sounds exciting, and good luck with it. Hopefully, we'll have good weather as well.
Hopefully.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have a Student Career Center update from Mariana Savoca.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Hello.
Morning.
I'm so excited to be here. I think this is the first time I'm presenting to this group, so thank you for having me. My name is Mariana Savoca. I was adopted by Stony Brook University in 1997 when I joined, and at the time it was a plan of 2 or 3 years, and here I sit. I love this university. I am committed to this university. And more important than my own interest is our commitment to student career success. And so we'll focus on internships today, but I also realize that many of you may not understand how this ecosystem of support actually works here at Stony Brook University. Internships are all about career readiness, career preparation, and career launch. And internships can take the form of research on campus. They can take the form of experiences in companies, in nonprofit organizations. They can also be part of a campus leadership experience and other types of service programs. So first, to let you understand, career services, even among the SUNY campuses, is highly contextual. Everything about career readiness maps on to the culture and context of the institution, the academic verticals that we have, and the location of the campus, the history of the campus, and the relationships we have with industry. So our context is this. We function through a model of something called career communities. That simply means we map to industry sectors. Industry, employment cuts across, our academic verticals are deep. And so many of our communities, you might think that a nurse would be part of our healthcare community, absolutely. But an engineer could work in healthcare. A computer scientist could work in the government. And so it's very important for us philosophically to help our students understand that, with some exceptions, nursing and engineering might be two of those, there are opportunities beyond their academic program, and we want to help them explore these opportunities through experiential education. We're centralized and comprehensive. What does that mean? Here at Stony Brook University, we serve all students, all majors, all degree levels, all career intentions, and all alumni. We're the only SUNY campus that provides support for alumni career changers, alumni job seekers, and alumni who need more support as they're navigating their own careers. So we're very proud of that. 80 years of employer and alumni relationships simply refers to the fact that our leadership team, myself and 3 others, have each been at the university for 20 plus years. And we are very, very connected to the employer community. It's very important for us. We have 4 functional areas. I'm going to give you the big picture. There are some details in here, but I want to structure for you what the work is, what sectors we work in, and how we group the work, because every campus is different. So there's the career exploration part. How do I think of myself in the world? How will a major connect me to my future? What's my purpose? And where do I see myself contributing to the world at large? We have services, programs, and people who can help students do that outside and inside the classroom. Our second bucket of services, which is the biggest one, is our experiential education programs. That starts with a campus job, everyone. Students can work on campus and have a learning and professional development experience from the moment they step on campus. That extends to internships, which are industry-driven largely and can be part of a campus experience, such as our research programs, and an off-campus experience. Our Center for Service Learning and Community Service is brand new, and we are, those are two different foci. Community service with our student leadership and organizations. Mari was with us during a torrential downpour for Welcome Week. 400 freshmen showed up in the pouring rain to do community service. So our students are active. But the service learning component, I think, is even more important. And that is because that connects service integral into their class experience, which means students don't have to have extra time to volunteer. It's baked into their course requirements, and therefore every student gets access. The third group is our employer engagement, and I put the word aggressive there on purpose. It's important for you to understand that we are aggressively seeking opportunities for students to practice their professional skills, enter the workforce in every possible capacity, undergraduates and graduate students, and make the connections and get the experiences that they need to be successful after the university. I mentioned alumni as job seekers and career changers, but we also provide a forum for alumni to help. They serve as mentors, they serve as career educators, they review resumes and conduct practice interviews, and they provide a pathway for us into their organizations for hiring. So that's the what we do. The job market is strong for the entry-level applicant. This is still good news. However, a couple of things you should know. We have about 6,000 student employment positions. It sounds like a lot. For the financial need and location of our campus as well as our students, this is not enough, and this is something we have to work on, is to create more paid experiences for students to get work on campus. Ideally connected to their curriculum, at minimum, just a paid opportunity. Last year, we had nearly 10,000 experiences for credit. I'm sorry, am I blocking you? My apologies. More than two-thirds of those were research experiences, and another 2,000 or so were internships on and off campus for credit. What this number does not account for are the probably several hundred, if not more, paid non-credit experiences that you would see students obtaining in the summers as engineers, in business and other industries where they don't need the credit. So this number isn't really an accurate representation, but it is what we can track. And then we had last year about 3,400 alumni job seekers. Diversity Professional Leadership Network is one of our signature talent development and pipeline programs where we pair corporate mentors with students from underrepresented backgrounds. It's hugely popular, and we're really, really proud that is real inroads into a corporate hiring mode. The mentoring is what we guarantee, but the outcomes show us that students are also being introduced to really impressive companies, and the companies are being introduced to really impressive students. We are well known for our experiential learning. This was 2 months ago. What we were recognized for is our status for having students utilize industry simulation projects with the top companies in the country, all on their own time. So we worked with faculty to infuse industry simulation projects in classes, And students can access these independently. We incorporate these industry simulations through our internships on and off campus, through student employment, and we're growing that in our classrooms. We're very excited about that. So who does this work? There are about 28 of us today, and we are working on expanding opportunities for more embedded roles so that our colleges and their very specific and unique needs can be met better with shared roles between our deans and the Career Center. I'll give you 2 examples. We're doing that really well right now with our College of Engineering and Applied Sciences and with our School of Communications and Journalism. And so we're looking to grow that model to increase the number of formal credit-bearing experiences that students can have that are connected to their academic programs. But we don't do this work alone, and this is our ecosystem. And Career Center is worth nothing if it's not connected to the campus and it's not leveraging relationships with every possible aspect of what the campus has to offer. When I see Fred here and I think about all the work that we do with the Veterans Home and with our medical center, we actually have students right now in a program called Pathways to Healthcare, run by 2 MDs on the medical side who are donating their time to give students exposure to a vast array of professionals who work in the medical center. 2 medical doctors are volunteering to do this. We have a tremendous ecosystem of support here at the university, including many of my friends in the room. We also have corporate partners. These are just a sampling. These are the ones who make public commitments to Stony Brook University for mentoring, career readiness, and hiring. There were 30 members last year. The Accounting Advisory Board is brand new. We worked with our outgoing dean, Manny London, and now we'll be elevating that under our new Dean of Business, Haresh Gurnani. And then finally, 2 more things. One is, please know, your career development and experiential ecosystem is bigger than just a resume service. We're writing grants with faculty. We're working with advancement to identify, nurture, and develop potential supporters of the campus. We're getting support from external entities like the Peace Corps and the Jewish Foundation for the Education of Women. We're leaders in our field. We're known nationally, and I think we can say internationally, and we produce research and scholarship as well. So I like to say we're the unicorn of career services, but I'm telling you that so that you understand that you can't put us in a box, and that's good, because as the world is rapidly changing and as the opportunities that our students will be faced with and have opportunity to accept, we need to be changing very quickly, and that is very much a part of our philosophy. This is where we're going. And the number one thing you need to understand is it's imperative that we give access to every single student at this university to opportunities that will increase their competitiveness and career readiness for the world ahead. Our faculty are doing tremendous work in educating them properly in their fields, and we need to do the heavy lifting to make sure they're connected with opportunities outside. The other things fall in line. We serve graduate students and undergraduate students. In fact, yesterday we were talking about supersizing the MPS in chemistry with industry partners that we work with. Faculty partnerships are absolutely necessary for us to do this work well. And of course, alumni, employer involvement. And when I think of this group here, I think of the BFFs like myself. People who didn't go to Stony Brook and get a degree, but who are very much committed to the success of our students today and tomorrow. And so with that, if there are a couple of minutes, I'm happy to entertain questions.
Great.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I have a quick question.
By all means.
Okay, sure.
I just want to say, again, as a student, in my experience, one of the biggest challenges that I've seen is obviously students have to seek out the resources that they consider, and just getting students to make that leap and get in the door is often the biggest challenge. So what are some strategies that you're undertaking to help students get in the door, and how do engagement numbers from students look coming out of the pandemic?
Okay, it's a great question about how what is our market penetration is basically what you're asking about. It's actually quite high. If we think about a 20,000 person touches every year, that's about our average for the last few years. But it also depends on the academic programs. As you might expect, our pre-professional programs, nursing, health science, engineering, business, journalism, these numbers are much higher than students in our traditional liberal arts programs, which is not dissimilar to what our peers in the industry are thinking about. But to your point, Devin, what we need to do is we need to work with our academic partners, because when your professor says, okay, people, we need to make sure that you're getting internships, here are the resources, then careers can take over and support you, right? So it's both. It's outreach and marketing that we do with our staff partners in the room and others. It's also working with student groups. We do that very well. In fact, at our engineering career fair this year, we weren't quite shut down because there were so many people there, but we were this close. That's how well our students were prepared to attend. We worked with our student organizations in engineering, such as the Society for Hispanic Professional Engineers, the IEEE, and others, to make sure that students far and wide understand what the services are. And still, every year, there's a new crop of students. So every year, we need to make sure that we're hustling so that students understand the services, especially our first generation students. They don't know what a career center is, and we're very, very mindful of that population. So thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Was there another question?
Marianne is very informative. I'm going to ask Rachel if you could send Marianne's PowerPoint and Mark's PowerPoint to the, because it was chock full of information to us.
Okay, and what I would like to suggest is I'll put my phone number on it too, just like Mark did, in case anybody would like to call me.
Great.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have two more presentations. The next is going to be on student life. We have Ricardo McClendon.
Good morning. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to you about the vibrant campus life we've been building over the past 3 years. I've been at Stony Brook since July of 21, and it's been a great adventure. And it's through partnerships with our undergraduate student government, our graduate student organization, now over 460 clubs and organizations to help us rebuild campus life. So a little bit about the Office of Student Life. We do everything from the Spirit of Stony Brook Marching Band, which if you attend most of our games, you see them there, you get into the spirit with those individuals. We run 4 campus life facilities, which are spaces and places to create vibrant connections between students, faculty, and each other. It's also a place where students do programs and events on campus. Our diversity, intercultural, community engagement team is transformed from the Office of Multicultural Affairs to this new DICE term. They oversee the Unity Culture Center, LGBTQ Center, and also diversity education and programming. Fraternity Sorority Life, think about Greek-lettered organizations that are both social, academic, and leadership in nature. New student and transition programs, think of orientation, welcome week, the onboarding of new students in that process. Student engagement activities, think clubs and organization, campus traditions and programs, a great partnership with USG, think of like Wolfieland, Earthstock, the Stony Brook Council, and so forth. And then student community development, think the students we support live off campus who are commuting students. The Center for Civic Justice, think voter education, student advocacy, activism, WSB Radio, and the University Pantry. And I'll cover some of those things about how we are building through each of these areas a vibrant campus life. So these are 2 of our amazing peer assistant leaders. Both Chris and Chen are vibrant students in creating that experience. We seek to transform the co-curricular experience. We know that the models and practices that we create to have a vibrant campus comes through putting students in the driver's seat. And so that's our focus throughout where we want to be over the next 5, 10, 15 years. So we have 3 goals: build a vibrant student life through intentional and targeted programming efforts. We know we want to invest in physical spaces and maintain those physical spaces. When we created the Unity Culture Center and redesigned that entire space, we found that students were attracted to just the swankiness of that environment, and we knew we needed to invest in other spaces and places to create that and many facilities for them. So we're going to talk, and I'll show you some pictures of what that looks like moving forward. And then lastly, through the safe, caring, supportive environment, creating spaces and places and office opportunities for students to feel like they belong in Stony Brook, and also what that success looks like. So our first touch point when it comes to engaging with students is through our New Seawolves experience. Over the course of the summer is when we start that process. We have about 30 peer assistant leaders who have a touch point with our students. They reach out to them during the summertime around the May-June timeframe to connect with them, to talk about what it means to prepare yourselves for college. It's a cohort model that allows for our peers to kind of have that one-to-one connection or one-to-group connection. We do a lot of visit days throughout the summer to say, hey, here's your chance to come back to campus, seek resources, ask questions, and get more direct services from the resources through student services. We do a welcome week activity. It used to be 3 days. Then we changed it to a whole week long, which allows students to come back to campus a week before school begin, before classes begin, so they can build community, connect with each other, engage, and also seek out other resources that they didn't get through a visit day or through an admissions process. So a part of that onboarding, we really focused a lot on the undergraduate experience, and now we're charged with focusing on graduate students. How do they onboard? How do they get connected to the resources offered by Student Affairs? What does that look like in our partnership with the graduate school? So with Dean Marshall's appointment, we've now started creating a module on onboarding graduate students as well. So that'll be coming forth. This year we had about over 4,900 students go through that process, first year transfer international students. And we had over 4,500 students attend Welcome Week, which is a good success for us. If you've seen some of the news marketing around Welcome Week, you saw those engaged students through the videos and photographs. A lot of the campus traditions that we do, again, as I mentioned, what creates and builds community is letting students create clubs and organizations where they can make and connect friends. When I started 3 years ago, we were about 350. Now this year, we got the 460 plus another 70 in the pipeline. So we put students in the driver's seat to create these experiences, and one of those ways is through clubs and organizations. We do about 75 Welcome Week activities. We invite faculty, staff to participate in that process, to even create programs as well. We do off-campus trips, which is called Beyond the Brook. We want students not only to know what's available on campus, but we want to say explore Long Island, explore New York City, especially those who are not from New York City or from Long Island. And so some of those off-campus trips could be a Broadway show, it could be hiking, going to the aquarium, the museums, and so forth. And that helps create them to other parts of Long Island and the city. As I mentioned earlier, between USG and GSO, we do a lot of exciting events that bring out several thousand students. Wolfie Lanford, second year in a row, had over 6,000 attendees who participated. The Light the Brook event, Roth Regatta. You see every year in the news, Roth Regatta is listed as one of the highlights for Stony Brook. These are campus traditions that students just want to be a part of. So part of student life is not only educating them about that, but getting them to participate. A lot of our performance groups are very much big fans. They have such a huge gathering. If you get a chance to come to homecoming and you come to Seawolf Showcase, you will see these students fanning over each other. They literally will rush the stage because they're just that high energy around their student colleagues. We started implementing things like the Red Hot Seat, a big inflatable chair. It's a great photo opportunity across campus. If you're in front of the Union, Rick commissioned a big Adirondack red chair, so many photo opportunities. Sometimes students are just sitting there hanging out. They're not just there to take photographs. And we recognize that they want all the Instagram-worthy kind of spaces and places, so that's been exciting to see as well. And so some of the things that we've done to kind of enhance that kind of community, is throughout our spaces and places, some of the things that we've done, we have a new DJ program that started last year. We had a first-year international student come to us and say, I'm a DJ, I want to do things on campus that creates vibrancy. And so they started the first DJ club. And with that, those DJs are at different student events. They're at campus life events. They cause a little bit of ruckus here and there, but we love it. So if you guys get complaints, it's all good fun. Adding up lights to spaces and places, adding a new Wolfie head with a spotlight. When you go into an event, it used to just be a normal event space. Now we're saying let's highlight it a little bit more so that way there's a little bit of life into those events and spaces too. What I'm excited for is that throughout most of our student life spaces, we have renovated a lot of spaces so that way students have a place they can go and connect with one another. In the upper top left, we have our new Service Learning and Community Service Center, which is under Mariana's shop. It's a beautiful space for students to go get information about service opportunities through clubs and organizations, through projects in the community. It's a brand new space, beautifully designed. Our graduate student lounge has gone under a renovation and it looks beautiful now. It's a space where graduate students can go into, connect with each other. They have a chance to just socialize, in that space. Because graduate students really ask for, where's our space? And throughout this presentation, there'll be other spaces that we are highlighting for them to use as well. Our veteran and military lounge got a reno. It's beautifully designed, has lockers, comfortable seating, coffee bar, dartboard. There's a video of me throwing the dart. I make it into the centerpiece. It was all fictional, but it worked out for my benefit. So when the students see Dean Rick, it's me making the target. We offered up a new meditation lounge. Comfortable seating, a place to relax, meditate, lots of light, plants in that space. It's just beautifully designed for folks to just kind of take a beat from the hustle and bustle of campus life and just unwind and relax for a few minutes. We had inside of the Student Activity Center this lovely wall that was recently painted red. To bring some of that New York feel into it, this entire wall area. It won't just be one single TV, it'll be a wall of either TVs or projectors or something to kind of showcase for students what the hustle and bustle of campus looks like, or it'll just have really good imagery on the wall to bring some color and visuals to that space. What I'm excited for is the Sandy Shore Club. It was a room that was kind of a really odd-shaped meeting space, and so we've invested some dollars into redesigning it. So it kind of has that coffee bar lounge type space. And this is one of the things that grad students asked about is, way back in the day, there used to be this nice lounge where students could go, have a couple of drinks, socialize. No alcohol service would be offered here, but you could reserve it and have services provided for graduate students in this space. This part here was intentionally designed not only for seating, but it also allows for you to have poetry nights and spoken word, and someone can just put a guitar there and just play and hang out. So it is a reservable space, but it's a space really designed for ones you kind of relax and lounge in, or host a really good event in. So the Sandy Shore Club is one of our newest spaces. It'll be online in time for homecoming. I'll say it that way. So if you're around, please come do check it out. This is another visual of what it'll look like. So in the very top upper left, those are the doors entering to the room. As we enter the room, there'll be a nice bar there, seating, plants, and so forth. In the upper dining hall within SAC, we renamed the upper dining hall to the Loft. This space is kind of give that lounge-like feel where it's good for dining, but also social setting. There'll be TVs around the room. So students have been asking for spaces where they can just get together with friends and watch a game or watch a popular TV show. That allows for them to do that in this space, as opposed to trying to find someplace on campus. This is the kind of go-to spot. Club Hub is a new initiative. It was born out of USG. Students got together and said, we need a campus game room. And so USG led that initiative. The Student Centers folks carried that through. The student on the right, Rico Maxino, he commissioned, designed the mural that's inside a Club Hub. It took them about a couple of weeks to do this, but the Club Hub is the new game room. It offers arcade games, foosball, billiards. It hosts our Fraternity Shorty Life Lounge. All of our student clubs and organizations, they have space for storage. Some of them do, about 30 organizations do. And then it also has a craft room. A lot of our students enjoy doing crafting. And so making things, making take things. And so that's also offered into this space as well.
And that's in the student union?
It's in the lower level of the student union, correct. Our new Office of Diversity, Intercultural, and Community Engagement, we celebrated our 5th year with the Unity Cultural Center. You may have seen some of the news article around the mural created outside of that center, which was also commissioned by a student. The Unity Cultural Center is in its 45th year of existence on campus. So these two spaces is where our students go to learn about cultural competencies. This is where they engage and learn about their own identities. And we've also started to look at, with everything students are going and facing from a global perspective, how do we address those needs of the students and what they're facing, especially around bias incidents, and how do we support them and navigate through what it means to address some of these concerns. And also how to support students. We've seen a lot of things happen in the world, and students, they need support, they need care, they need a place to go and just talk about things. So our bias support services is a resource that's going to be coming out of our new DICE Center. The Red Zone, our USG Vice President for Student Life, Isaiah Daniel, they have been very instrumental in helping us bring back the Red Zone. We want to see students at the games, want to see them very vibrant and excited about what's going on campus. And so what these students do, they wear, in the middle picture you see they got the Red Zone t-shirt, glasses, hats, socks. They're ready for game day. And so we've expanded this to get to a place of like, how do we get students in the doors, in the games, participating. There's a lot of hype around what we can offer during the games to get students, like student performances, getting them on the field to perform during halftime, getting the band hyped up, energized, playing songs that students want to hear and be engaged in. So this is about creating school spirit around all things Stony Brook. We recently celebrated our 10 years of anniversary with the pantry. Thanks to the generous donation of Stop and Shop, we received $10,000 in gift card donations, which allows for us to restock the pantry with different services and foods that students need. We also received $50,000 from the Chancellor's Fund initiative to also enhance the staffing, our hours of operation, to also enhance the type of foods that we offer within those spaces. And with our partnership with FSA, we've been able to offer local produce and perishable items as well. We serve over 1,900 students in this process of visiting the food pantry. And our students are very active in the Swipe Out Hunger initiative, which was led by the governor's office. As a result of these generous donations, we've been able to also not only restock the pantry and have it more vibrant for campus, we've been able to create satellite locations as well in the Student Activity Center, the LGBTQ Center, and we're hoping to do one soon in 2024 in the Health Life Sciences area too. So we want to make sure there's a lot of spaces and places on campus that students get access to resources.
Is the pantry just open to food and secure students, or is it open to the community as well?
When you say community, are you meaning like Stony Brook in general?
Yeah, like the Free Village area. Yeah.
We don't prohibit folks. Right now, students, faculty, staff, they know about it, they access it. Right now, we haven't seen non-Stony Brook folks utilize it.
Primarily for our students.
Yeah. But if somebody walked in and needed support, we would not probably turn someone away. The Pit Stop, our new commuter lounge, through our partnership with FSA, renovated this entire space. It's beautifully designed for our commuting students with lounge chairs, better lockers, and just overall better decor for that space. So commuters have a better space to go to kind of hang out. And then these are some examples of what our satellite food pantry locations look like. We hope to have one at Southampton pretty soon as well. We've been in talks with that location. Our Fraternity Shorty Life, Community, again, we have 32 organizations. Over the past year, they've raised over $35,000 for the Be Positive Foundation, which is an increase from last year. They've raised $60,000 in charitable donations to different organizations across different initiatives. And they've completed over 8,000 hours of community service. So our fraternity and sorority leaders are very much involved in the community. They're providing service opportunities, leadership opportunities for their members, and just having a presence on campus. So when you see someone walk around in Greek-led organization letters, those are those folks from different backgrounds. And then lastly, through our partnership with FSA, we've been doing a food cooking competition. The most recent one was during Family Weekend, where students competed. There were 4 teams of students who competed to have the best nacho recipe, and that item got onto the local retail and dining menu for a period of time, and they won, Wolfie Wallet trophies and so forth, and also just bragging rights. And so there's a video out there, thanks to the president for joining us for Family Weekend. She's one of the celebrity judges. Rick Gateau and I have created a whole system where at the end of this competition, he and I will compete for the best baking recipe out there.
You're all invited.
So, yes, you're all invited to that kind of stuff.
If
But,
anyone wants to bet on Rick, I'll take it.
and I thought we were friends, Carl. Clearly. Thank you.
No, I know I
Thank you.
meant, if anyone wants to bet on him, I'll take the action. I'm betting on you.
That wasn't clear. We're academic folks. You just never know. But the past 3 years.
People who gamble understand.
I got it. Good recovery. Good recovery. But the past 3 years has really been about building a vibrant campus community, putting students in the driver's seat to what it is that they want to see at Stony Brook, finding the right resources and people to connect them with through this whole process, because it is at the end of the day about their experiences and where they want to see it at the end of their 4 years. And when they return, they can talk about those things. I've been very fortunate to come across a few alumni who've come back and shared their stories about what it means to be a Seawolf, what they created, and that it's still here on campus that they can kind of see and have a little bit of nostalgia feeling to it as well. So that's who we are for student life. Any questions?
Exciting stuff.
Very impressive.
How?
Yeah. Do you work with Brooke and Tashika as well? Because it seems like the homecoming activities are all part of the student life.
It is.
Do all you guys work under Rick or in Rick's shop? Or?
I mean, if he wants, he can have it, but no.
or you
Jessica
guys-
works for the president, Brooke works for Justin, and I work for Rick. I'm the upgrade version.
Very good.
They all work very closely
Well,
together.
Yes.
As I said,
Great
you know,
teams.
when I went here, it was such a dump.
So you want to sign up
And I see this, it's just like, oh my God, it's amazing for a student life,
Yeah, it's
you
great.
know, experience.
It
you
helps
know?
when you have students who want to be active and engaged in that process, and they drive that bus too. It's hard to say, no, you can't do something when they're really determined.
Love it.
Devin, you have no idea how fortunate you guys are. We
When he
had,
said determined, he was like, he was gonna go over the side.
Frank, what's your question?
Yeah, a question. How does all this excitement relate to the Southampton campus and what goes on out there in relation to student life?
Yeah, so that is on our radar. How do we bring our services and programs to Southampton? We do have a vibrant Southampton campus student life team through campus residences. They do a lot of programming out there, but we need to find a better way to make those connections.
Thank you.
All right, Ricardo, great job. Thank you very much. We have one last presentation, and Carl is up again for an update on the strategic planning process that's going on.
Okay, so whenever a professor says they're going to be brief, you need to be very worried, but I can actually do that because we've talked a little bit about the plan throughout, and so we are now at the moment, and this is where our name has come from. We had heard in several meetings and in other places the idea of this urgency, that this is our moment now, that this university has done so many great things, but where we are going now is something that we've just not seen before. And we either seize that or we don't. And we take that really seriously.
And that urgency is wrapped into everything about this plan, and we wanted a name that sent that message. Just to give you a sense of what we have in the plan, we start with our mission, obviously, but then our vision all the way through our objectives, we start to get more granular, and our success measures. We want to be able every year to hold ourselves accountable. And what isn't listed here is that we will do an action plan every year that really gets much more granular, allows us to really be clear about this is what the parts of the plan that we are going to really push on. This is how we will do it. And again, this is how we hold ourselves accountable, where we've succeeded and where we haven't. What are the ways in which we double down in the successive year, or maybe we make different decisions. So I've shared the vision with you before, but I just want to make sure there's just so many important. I have been a part of many strategic plans, and I am so proud of this vision, partially because if you think about what a strategic plan is, you think about the legitimacy story. When we say what are the best public schools in the nation, you always have to say Michigan, you always have to say Berkeley. We want to get to a point where you always have to say Stony Brook. We are on the precipice of being the first New York school to ever be a top 25 public. That's a great goal for right now, but we want to run right through that to the point at which we are legitimate as one of the great public institutions. Now, part of this is also about an advantage story. What makes us different? What makes us unique? This is where the first choice piece comes in. We want to be the first choice for our students. We want to be able to be the first choice for our staff who have tons of options right now. There are so many other jobs outside of academia where our staff can go, but they choose to come here. They are excited about being here. And for our faculty, what are the ways in which we are their first choice so they come here even though they got an offer at MIT or other places that we want to be a competitor with. So we take that advantage piece seriously. The other piece that really drives home the advantage piece is the social mobility. Every AAU institution, they may put that in there, but it better be a vision, not a reality, because they are not there in the way that we are. As you start to think about what it means to have Pell eligible, low income, first gen students that are graduating not just close to their peers, but actually at higher rates, that makes us unique. It makes us a university that can bring all the pieces in the middle, the transformative piece, the innovative piece. We have, and I will say this, if not the best, one of the best career services centers in the country. What does that mean for our students, for our responsibility, and this is the last piece, as a public flagship to this state, so that we are driving the economy, we are creating a healthy population, that we are both legitimate as that flagship, but providing all of these advantages and being worthy of the investments that we're getting. So from this, we have values. Now, values sometimes just kind of sit there in a strategic plan. You often have a very catchy acronym that goes along with it. Christy Henderson, who is chief of staff in the provost's office, we worked together in Kansas and Connecticut. She just gives me a look when I want to do things that are a little too cheesy. And so she was like, we're not doing an acronym, we're going to pick the values that are right. And when everything that we do, we want to ask ourselves, because we're putting hard things against each other. We're having to make difficult choices, sometimes that put some of our values directly in contrast. So we want to always ask ourselves, is this decision going to move us towards excellence? Is this decision going to produce equity? One of the things Mariana talked about was the importance of paid student experiences. If we create more student experiences and they're not paid, And we're a university that has so many low-income first-gen students, they're having to choose between working a job and getting that opportunity. We would create more disparities if we, so everything we do, we say, is this gonna produce equity? Are we actually gonna create an unexpected outcome with this? Are we collaborating? Are we having these arbitrary boundaries, or what you just saw before where three folks from totally different units, it all seemed like they must work together in the same unit because they do that so much. And then innovation. We are not gonna just do it away because that's what we've always done before. So even though we don't have this great acronym, as we think about this all being bound together by community, we want every single decision that happens in this campus to refer back to those values. And when we get it wrong, it's not because we didn't think about that, it's because there are other factors that we couldn't have foreseen, and then we bring the values back in and work through it. So we are taking that seriously. So now when we think about our priorities and objectives, these are the four we talked about before: transforming learning and teaching. So it isn't just the same old, this is the innovation piece. How are we pushing the envelope? How are we continuing to have interdisciplinary opportunities? How are we giving students hands-on experiences? So when you think about these pieces and the way that we measure these things, what does it mean to enhance our experiential learning? Are we able to give every student who wants one of these opportunities a paid research or study abroad or internship or other experiential learning? And are we developing students, as I said before, the importance of global engagement? So then we have growing our research enterprise for impact. We want to be able to have a real impact on our local community, beyond, but also creating these discoveries that Stony Brook will be known for. So that we don't just think, oh, well, you know, Stony Brook's an AAU, it's a research university. It is a leader in climate science. It is a leader as we think about developing our AI Institute now, or the work that's being done in healthy aging. So that it isn't just a generality, but it is specific instances where we are making a difference. And so that's part of some of the things we talked about with being interdisciplinary, with collaborating, the way in which we are going to be a major force in economic development. We talked about the new position we're hiring, the work that Judy led and others to really do a scan of what are we getting right, but what are we not getting right? And how do we be willing to do it differently? All of that leads us into the next piece, that we are a public flagship and we have to do everything we can to every day be sending the message, the reality, and also the story of who we are, how we're contributing to the community, and that we are getting that feedback. And so as we then move into how we work, I would love for 5 years from now, that to not be one of our priorities, that we've just gotten it right, that we've removed friction out of people's lives, that for students, everything is much simpler, they know where to go, everything works well together. As we get this right, that can fall off, but for right now, this has got to be a part of not just the big vision, but the execution. So just to say very quickly, now that we have our plan and we'll be launching it this week, we are working with each of our individual, so with health sciences, who's just developed their plan, every school and college, division, what each individual on campus, and then that annual action plan and how they work together. So first, some schools and colleges or other units already have a plan, but we're gonna ask them to refresh it. What are the ways in which it connects up through what we're doing? Others have been waiting for the plan, so we're gonna do everything we can so that everything is working together in a tiered way. Sorry, there we go. And then for the annual action plan, every year, we're gonna pull some things up. We're gonna be very deliberate about it. We're gonna have the right measurements, And we're going to show how each of these things come back to the vision that we talked about before. How does this make us a first choice? How does this allow us to continue to build our advantage in what social mobility means here at Stony Brook? And how do we become that public flagship that is driving research discovery and is creating a really thoughtful, balanced, and strong populace and workforce for the state? And so that's really where the last piece is, how we're asking each of our folks to be a part of it. This will not sit on a shelf. I expect that we will do this right, so this will be a centerpiece in annual planning for units, in meetings that folks have. We are gonna keep coming back to it, and we are gonna ensure that it is driving our ability to be strategic. So with that, I'm partially relieved that it is done, but I'm much more excited.
That's great. Thanks, Paul. Great job. And is that also something you could share the plan with us?
Oh, yeah.
That would be great. And I know something I think over the years Stony Brook was excellent at, and that was creating silos here. And so it sounds like, although I didn't see the word on there, it seems like your plan, if implemented and executed like you want it to be, will help eliminate the remaining silos that exist here. And as they buy into the overall strategic plan for the university.
And part of that is quality and trust. You know, Mariana mentioned the idea that we have some new deans coming in. And listen, a new dean, they come in, they have lots of thoughts. One of the first things an engineering or business dean thinks is, I need to create my own career center within my school or college. Now that's terrifying if you've created what Mariana has over the years, and that ran the risk of us getting things wrong. We brought all those folks together and we were able to create this because they trust what's there, because they believe in what's happening. And that's where that idea of cutting out the friction, executing really well. We've got a bold president and we need a bold ability to execute, and the plan helps us do that.
Good. Any other questions for Paul?
Just like, all the talk about flagship, which is great, but begs the question, like, does it eventually mean you're gonna change the name of the university? I mean, like, we used to call these.
This is favorite topic.
We used to always call it State University of New York at whatever, right?
Right.
So now Stony Brook's becoming the flagship. Stony Brook sounds parochial nationally, right? But if we were New York State University at Stony Brook, you know, just like UC Berkeley, right? It just seems to me like listening to what he says, listening to all the things we've been hearing the last couple of weeks, a couple of years really now, since Maury took over and started leading. It seems to me that there should be a serious conversation about changing the name of this institution at some point.
Assemblyman Mike Fitzpatrick has been on that initiative
for years. Well, the first time we heard it 10 years ago, we laughed at him, right?
But I think it always had merit, but I just don't think it's gone
he's
anywhere.
right in a lot of ways. And when you look at all the things that they're doing here and how we're moving up in the rankings, I think that the name might be something that has to be considered, because it might be something that's holding us back a little bit. So, I mean, I don't, and again, just throwing it out there, just based on what
And
you're
the
saying.
only thing I would add is to drop the state part. If you were to say, what is the best public university in Michigan? University of Michigan, North Carolina, University of North Carolina, California. There is a model that essentially 48 states, except for New Jersey and here, have largely adopted to the. I made a logo, and people mocked me. Now it's in crayon, and I was on a plane. And I put the U by NY. It's very clever. But the point is, there's a model. So I'm just going to tell a very quick story. I was with my stepdad. I was in South Carolina. He's in his nursing home, and really smart people there who are residents with him. And I had a T-shirt on that said Stony Brook University. And he'd introduced me to people. He was very proud. He's like, "Oh, this is my son, and he, runs the academics at his school." And 3 different separate people said to me, "Oh, you're a principal." And so the name sounds like a Montessori high school. And well, you said parochial, I say provincial, but the point is, there's a model, and we may want to consider that model will set. And one of the things, so if you look at the peer assessment score, which is a huge part of US News, schools in the Northeast have the top schools have a much lower peer assessment than their peers in the South, in the Midwest, and then in the West. And I think part of it is the nomenclature. People, Rutgers, we know a little bit now because of sports, but there's a provost at, a small school in Oregon, and they're rating us on a 1 to 5, and they see Stony Brook University. I don't think they know what that is. They see the University of New York at Stony Brook, and the model works. We have Buffalo, University of New York at Buffalo. The North Carolina system has, all right, I'm just gonna stop. I could not agree with you more.
That was up until, when I was in college, I started at SUNY Albany, I left University at Albany, right? They changed it while I was in college. So, obviously the SUNY name has got some, negative to some extent connotation to it. But changing it to, I'm sure we'd do a study and they'd come back with exactly what you just drew on that thing here, right? We'd pay a guy $1 million, like, oh yeah, change it to New York University and work the SB in there somehow. But
You're not wrong, Chris, and Carl, you're right as well. But it's something that's beyond this council. This is something, we are part of a system, and this is something that's gonna have to be done at the SUNY level because they control it. But next Saturday, every year I tell you guys, I go to that Association of College Trustees. I'll go next Friday night and Saturday, and the chairwoman, Samira, always shows up, and John, and if you guys want, I'll raise this there because there's also, listen, there's different leagues of SUNYs. And now the community college, you see, they're all advertising themselves as SUNY at Suffolk and SUNY. I don't know if they did that to try to ride on our tails or if they were directed, from SUNY Central to start including the word SUNY. And then we have the university centers, and then we have the state colleges. And maybe the model is more along the lines of California, where you have UC Berkeley, but then you also still have Cal State Fullerton. But there they have two separate systems, two separate governing boards, I believe. So I think it's a bigger issue than just for this council, and not only at the SUNY trustee level, but at the state legislature level. But yes, I think as we try to grow, something like this would be great, I think, for our branding, our cachet, and something worth pursuing. So why don't I at least take the temperature of the others
they
up
won't
there?
like it.
I don't know.
Not if they all want to change. I mean, I
right.
think SUNY does have a negative connotation from over the years.
Right.
So you never know.
Well,
It's worth pursuing.
we used to always, it was always SUNY at Stony Brook too. And we've moved away from that over the last 10 years, where it's just Stony Brook University.
They all, in the
And there
90s,
was
they all.
merit in, it definitely made sense to try to differentiate ourselves, so I
Right.
get that, that decision makes sense to me. This would be more based on that idea of a legitimacy story, or what does it mean? What in your head do you think of when you think about that amazing state university? And when you're not in that model, then maybe you have a really, high-profile sports program, or maybe you have something. And so schools try to pick it up in other ways, but that model, we can choose not to do it, and we may choose not to do it. But
It's worth
it'd be good to
exploring.
have the conversation.
It's worth exploring. It's also, as we're all gubernatorial appointees, I think it's a good issue for the governor to get behind, but you sort of would allow her to put her imprimatur on the system. So maybe something,
Raise the gravitas
I
of
discussed
it.
with her as well. Because if she doesn't like it, then she won't blame you. Right?
Perfect.
You can blame me, but I think she would like it. So, all right, Carl, great job, and thanks for that. That was the last official item on the agenda. Does anybody have any other business? to raise. Bill Herman, congratulations on your appointment. You see all these beautiful pictures now. It's all on you to keep it going, keep it beautiful as it is. So, but congratulations. And thanks for the team for being here. We're adjourned. Our next meeting is in December at the Southampton campus. I know the dates keep on moving around, but Rachel, what is the date?
December 19th,
December 19th, 9 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
10
So I'm
o'clock.
giving people time to
Yes,
get
good. Linda, you like that?
I'm not sure I can even make it, so
Well,
I'm gonna get back to you.
okay, great. All
But
right.
yes,
So,
10 o'clock is better than
Yes, out there. Hopefully we'll get a nice
driving out
day.
there.
And what a beautiful day to be walking on this campus too. It's just like.
Yeah, it's gorgeous,
It's
yeah.
great. So enjoy. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you to
Yeah,
all the
make it
team
a
who
tough one
presented.
today.
Oh.